Let us begin where time stands still, where dust clings to stone walls, and the whisper of forgotten gods brushes against your skin like a dry desert wind. Welcome to Babylon. Not the Babylon told through half-remembered myths or scribbled in sacred texts. No, this is living Babylon, its heartbeat, its breath, its laughter echoing down limestone streets. A city of wonder and contradiction. A city of towering pride and buried secrets. As we begin this slow walk through the streets of ancient Babylon, we step into the sandals of a young scribe named Ashur-nasir, barely 20, slender as a reed, but with eyes sharper than obsidian. He walks beneath the morning sky, a canvas of rose and gold, as the shadows of the Ishtar gate stretch across the dusted path. His linen tunic clings to his legs in the breeze, and a bundle of wax tablets hangs from his belt. Ashur isn't walking alone. Not today. His elderly uncle Belatiru, a priest and scholar of Marduk's great temple, strides beside him. Their journey is not one of haste. This is not a marketplace stroll nor a summons from the king. Today is about witnessing. About breathing in the soul of a city that does not belong to one man, one god, or one age, but belongs to time itself. They approach the Ishtar Gate, that colossal monument of lapis lazuli and golden lions, where bricks are carved with roaring beasts and sacred bulls. The gate is more than just an entrance, it is a prayer in stone, a hymn to the goddess Ishtar. Look upon it, Ashur, Belatiru says with a breathy awe, voice half caught in reverence. There is no entrance like it in all the kingdoms of men. Not even Egypt dares dream of such beauty. Ashur nods, silent. Words feel foolish beneath such grandeur. The gate looms like a mountain shaped by gods, its walls coated in blues as deep as twilight seas. Travelers pass by, traders from Persia, nomads from Arabia, soldiers from Assyria, and each glances up with the same mixture of dread and wonder. This is Babylon's skin, rich, radiant, and impossible to ignore. As they pass beneath the gate's great arch, the temperature shifts. The air cools slightly, carrying hints of incense and baked barley. To the left, children chase one another through narrow alleyways, kicking a leather ball and shrieking with joy. To the right, a potter shapes clay with his feet spinning the wheel, sweat dripping from his brow as he murmurs a song to Ea, god of water. Belatiru gestures toward a woman pouring honey onto flat cakes by a wooden stall. Even the street food is sacred here, he smiles. Offer her a copper, and she'll tell you which goddess blessed her morning batch. Ashur smiles back but says nothing. His ears are tuned elsewhere, to the sound of prayers spilling from open temple windows, to the clip-clop of donkeys pulling carts of date wine, to the slow rhythm of hammers tapping bronze into shape in the craftsman's quarter. This is not just a city, it is a living manuscript. Further down the road, they pass a mural, a massive wall of painted tiles. It tells the story of Gilgamesh, king and demigod, slayer of the forest demon Humbaba. The images are worn from sun and rain, but the spirit remains. A woman sits beneath the mural, braiding her daughter's hair. She looks up and sees Ashur staring. He was real, you know, she says simply. Not just a tale for drunks and scribes. Belatiru chuckles. Some say Gilgamesh still wanders the far corners of the earth, seeking immortality. Ashur lowers his gaze. And some say Babylon is immortal. Belatiru stops walking and turns to face his nephew. And what do you say? Ashur pauses. The sounds of the city seem to hush, waiting. Then he answers, I think immortality is only for stories. The old man's smile fades to something more thoughtful. Then let us walk, and make a story worth remembering. As the sun climbs, their path winds toward the processional way, a grand avenue lined with statues of lions and eagles, each a symbol of divine guardianship. Soldiers in bronze breastplates patrol in pairs, but not with menace. There is order here. Babylon's pride is not only in her splendor but in her discipline. They pause near a scribe's shop, where a man with ink-stained fingers and thick black curls leans over a wooden table, carving cuneiform into a tablet. On the walls, papyrus scrolls hang like silent prayers. Belatiru greets him with familiarity. Peace be upon you, Nabuziri. The scribe lifts his head. And upon your house, Belatiru. Who walks with you? My nephew, he says, clapping Ashur's shoulder. A scribe in training. He seeks the heart of Babylon. The scribe smiles. then let him read her skin. Every tablet, every brick. Ashur steps closer to the shelves, fingers grazing the edges of fragile history. Names leap out in the curling script: kings, floods, temples, taxes. Moments captured in clay, preserved for eternity or until rain forgets mercy. They take their leave with blessings and words of wisdom. As they walk again, Ashur begins to feel the city less like a place and more like a presence, an ancient being, breathing through the sighs of its priests and the cries of its infants. At midday, they stop near a fountain built in the shape of a lion's head, from which water spills into a stone basin. Women gather here, jars balanced on their hips, gossiping in hushed voices. One of them, tall and fierce-eyed, stares at Ashur as he drinks. New to the city, she asks. Ashur nods. Be careful, she warns with a smirk. Babylon has a habit of keeping what it loves and destroying what it doesn't. Belatiru leans in. She speaks in riddles. That's Ninlil, daughter of a silversmith. She plays oracle when the moon is full. Ashur laughs but notes her words. Babylon is beautiful, yes, but beneath the beauty lies ambition, and ambition is a cruel mistress. The day fades into gold as they reach the steps of Edamananki, the great ziggurat dedicated to Marduk. From its summit, smoke rises, the scent of myrrh and bird cedar mingling with the wind. Pilgrims climb the steps barefoot, whispering prayers. Ashur stands still, gazing upward. You will climb it one day, Belatiru says gently. Not just in body, but in spirit. As the sun sinks low, painting the Euphrates in fire and rose, Ashur feels it deep in his bones. He does not simply walk through Babylon. He walks through history. Through myth. Through something too large for any one man to hold. And somewhere deep within the city's maze of alleys, someone else watches him. A figure cloaked in gray, silent as dusk. The walk is far from over. The heat of the day wanes, and a strange calm settles over Babylon like a veil drawn softly over sleeping eyes. But the city does not sleep. Babylon never truly rests, it only shifts, as if changing costumes between the sun and the stars. The cries of market vendors are replaced by the low hum of string instruments. Oil lamps flicker to life in doorways, casting shadows that seem to dance to rhythms known only to the gods. Ashur-nasir follows Belatiru along a narrow path that winds through the lower quarter, closer now to the slow-moving banks of the Euphrates. The priest walks with a slower pace now, leaning more heavily on his staff. The day's walk has worn into his bones, but his eyes remain sharp. Do you feel her heartbeat yet? He asks, voice barely louder than the rustle of palm fronds above. Ashur glances up at the thick branches overhead. Babylon's? No, his uncle says. Yours. For once it matches the city's rhythm, you will no longer be an outsider. The words feel cryptic, but Ashur says nothing. He looks ahead, and the streets begin to thin. A cool breeze, scented faintly of jasmine and river silt, touches his skin. The noise of the city dulls, replaced by the soft lapping of water against stone. They arrive at the river's edge. The Euphrates, the great artery of Mesopotamia, glows orange beneath the setting sun. Small boats glide across its surface, guided by oars and ancient knowledge. A boy no older than 10 casts a fishing net from a flat raft. A couple draped in sheer linen lean against a palm tree, their foreheads pressed together in silent joy. The city's heartbeat is different here. Slower. More introspective. It is where Babylon breathes in. Many think the ziggurat is Babylon's soul, Belatiru says, lowering himself to a stone bench. But I believe it is this river. Everything flows from it. Crops, trade, stories, life. Ashur sits beside him, watching the flickering reflection of temple fires on the water's surface. Belatiru continues. It was on this very riverbank that Hammurabi once walked, they say. Speaking laws into the wind, long before the stones remembered them. And before him? Ashur asks. The old man smiles. Before him, there was only mud. And gods. And silence. As twilight deepens, another figure approaches, a young woman wrapped in a long indigo shawl. She carries a clay vessel balanced on one shoulder. When she sees Belatiru, she stops and bows her head. "Peace to you, Holy One." He nods kindly. "And to your house, Nin's son." Ashur watches her. There is a quiet grace in the way she moves, like someone accustomed to both labor and thought. Her eyes are almond-shaped, the color of fertile earth after rain. She turns to Ashur. "You are the priest's nephew?" "I am," Ashur replies, standing. "Ashur Nasir." "I've heard your name," she says softly. "The boy who writes poems in Sumerian." Ashur flushes. "Only practice." "Everything begins in practice," she says, before dipping the vessel into the water. Belatiru chuckles, whispering to Ashur that one listens to the winds more than the priests. But her words often hit true. Nin's son doesn't linger. She lifts her filled pot, nods once, and disappears down a path between two fig trees. Ashur watches her go longer than he realizes. "She lost her brother to the northern wars," Belatiru says quietly. "Now she speaks to rivers and stars." The silence stretches between them. Only the river talks now. Later that evening, they visit the temple of Ea, god of wisdom and water. The temple sits on the river's edge like a ship docked for eternity, built low and wide, with soft corners and sun-washed walls. Priests move like shadows within, their robes glimmering with tiny shells sewn along the hem. A ritual is beginning. Inside the inner court, 5 men chant in a language older than kings. A shallow basin in the center bubbles with perfumed water, said to be blessed by Ea himself. The air smells of cedarwood, sage, and something Ashur can't name. He watches as the head priest steps forward and places a carved tablet into the water. The symbols melt away slowly, absorbed into the flow. It's an offering, not just words, but meaning returned to the gods. This, Belatiru whispers, is how we send our questions to the deep places. "And do they answer?" Ashur asks. His uncle gazes at the basin. "Always. But not always in words." They leave the temple in thoughtful silence, the river now black and full of stars. Somewhere far down its winding length, the city of Ur sleeps beneath crumbling tombs, and the wind carries with it the cries of desert foxes. Back on the street, something shifts. A faint clang echoes from an alley behind them. Ashur turns, heart quickening. A shadow moves across the mud brick wall, quick, silent. "Gone." "Did you see that?" he asks. Belatiru turns slowly, narrowing his eyes. "Yes." They quicken their pace slightly, not out of fear but awareness. Babylon is a city of wonder, but also a city of watchers. And not all who walk her streets are pilgrims. As they pass under an arch carved with astral symbols, Belatiru speaks again. "Do not be alarmed. Not every watcher means harm. Some simply observe. This city remembers all who pass through her veins, even if they forget themselves." They arrive back near the residential quarter, where lights flicker through reed curtains and the smell of lentils drifts from clay ovens. The city is quieter now, but not still. Babylon is never truly still. Ashur enters the courtyard of his uncle's modest home, built around a central fig tree. He sits beside it, back against its rough trunk, watching the stars. Belatiru joins him. Today was the first step. Ashur doesn't speak. His eyes are fixed on a particular star, bright and pulsing just above the horizon. "You saw the temples," Belatiru continues. "The river, the gate, the gods in motion. But tomorrow, we walk beneath the palace." Ashur finally turns to him. "The king's palace?" "No," the old man replies. "The old one. The buried one. The palace beneath the palace." A breeze rustles the fig leaves. "What lies there?" Ashur asks. Belatiru's voice is barely a whisper. "Truth." And in the shadows beyond the wall, that cloaked figure returns. Watching. Waiting. The night grows deeper, and Babylon exhales. Shall I continue with part 3 now? The next morning arrives cloaked in mist. For a city of desert stone and scorching heat, Babylon wears the early fog like a soft shroud, an unusual hush drifting through its avenues and courtyards, as if the city itself knows something is about to be remembered. Ashur-nasir awakens before the sun has fully risen. The fig tree in his uncle's courtyard is still heavy with dew, and the pigeons nesting in its upper limbs rustle gently, cooing like priests reciting dawn prayers. Ashur's heart beats with expectation. Yesterday, he saw the city's skin. Today, he would walk through its bones. Belatiru emerges from the inner room of their home wrapped in a plain brown robe. No golden trim, no amulets. Just the simple dress of one entering sacred soil. Today we walk where even kings do not go, he says, his voice barely rising above the birdsong. We walk beneath Babylon. They carry no tablets, no scrolls, no ceremonial symbols. Only a single oil lamp, a length of rope, and Belatiru's wooden staff, carved with faint images of 7 stars. They leave before the priests have opened the temples, before the incense has been lit. Their path leads them past the outer walls of the royal compound, past the hanging gardens, which even now shimmer with dew. Ivy and oleander spill from terraces above them, while golden butterflies flutter through vines heavy with pomegranate blooms. It is a place of myth, of wonder, of beauty so precise it seems unreal. But they do not stop. Ashur glances up once, catching the faintest movement behind a lattice window, perhaps a hand brushing silk, perhaps only his imagination. They move on. At the rear of the royal gardens, hidden behind a row of half-buried statues, lies a crumbling structure, smaller, plainer, forgotten. Once a servant's storehouse, now covered in moss and vines, its door hangs crooked, untouched by royalty for decades. Belatiru kneels beside the door and begins clearing away stones. Beneath them, hidden in earth and time, lies a square stone slab etched with ancient markings. Ashur kneels to read them. They're Sumerian, he whispers. This predates Hammurabi. His uncle nods. This city has been built and rebuilt. What lies beneath was never meant for all eyes. They lift the slab. Dust and cool air rise like a sigh from the throat of the earth. Stone steps lead downward. The descent is slow and silent. Each step echoes slightly in the damp tunnel. The deeper they go, the more the city above them fades, the laughter, the markets, the gods carved in daylight. Down here, only whispers remain. The corridor opens into a vaulted chamber carved directly from bedrock. Pillars of black basalt hold up the ceiling, each etched with animal motifs: serpents swallowing their tails, winged bulls mid-flight, lions walking on 2 legs. In the center of the room lies a stone platform, and upon it, a single sarcophagus. Ashur approaches, breath held. It is said, Belatiru murmurs, that this tomb belongs to Enlil-bani, the priest-king of the forgotten dynasty. Not a king in name, but in power. He ruled before law was stone, when Babylon was no more than reed huts and offerings in clay bowls. Ashur circles the tomb. The stone lid is carved with unfamiliar symbols, flowing in spirals and curves rather than the sharp edges of cuneiform. These markings, he begins. They're Akkadian, Belatiru says. A form rarely used. Ritual language. Reserved only for invocations of the deep. Ashur's hand hovers above the lid. Have you ever opened it? His uncle shakes his head. No. Nor shall we. Some doors are meant to remain closed. Ashur feels the cold of the chamber settle into his chest. He looks around at the walls, which bear murals barely visible in the flickering lamplight. One depicts a great flood, men drowning beneath a sky split by lightning. Another shows a man seated upon a throne of reeds, his face hidden by a veil of stars. And then Ashur sees something strange. A figure, carved into the stone behind the tomb. Cloaked, faceless. Watching. Just like the figure he'd glimpsed in the alley. He turns to Belatiru. This symbol. I saw it yesterday. The old man's brow tightens. He steps closer, tracing the carving with his finger. Then they've taken notice. Who? Belatiru doesn't answer immediately. There are those who walk the old paths. Who remember the language of water and fire. Who guard the knowledge buried beneath kingdoms. Ashur speaks slowly. You mean, cults? No. Older than cults. Older than worship. These are the Watchers. The ones who knew the names of gods before men learned to pray. Ashur stares into the faceless carving's gaze. And they're watching me? Perhaps. Or perhaps they're only watching what you might become. They remain there in the chamber, surrounded by time's echoes. Ashur feels as though he is both present and distant, as though he has stepped into a story not meant to be read. But the moment passes. Belatiru begins to lead him back through the tunnel. As they climb the stone steps and emerge into daylight, the world above feels too bright, too loud. Babylon rushes around them, fruit sellers shouting, oxen pulling carts, a child crying over a broken doll. Life resumes. But something has changed. Later that evening, Ashur stands on the roof of their home, watching smoke rise from distant cooking fires. Ninsun appears below in the street, holding a bundle of herbs and a small clay bowl. I brought you something, she calls. He descends to meet her. She hands him the bowl. Inside is a mixture of ash, crushed fig seeds, and sandalwood. To ward off watchers, she says, smiling faintly. Ashur studies her. You believe in them? I see more than I believe, she answers. And I dream more than I see. She leaves him with the bowl, her sandals slapping softly against the stone path as she walks away. Ashur turns to find Belatiru standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Tomorrow, the priest says, we go to the scribes of Iker. You must know what was erased. Ashur frowns. Erased? There is more truth in what is missing than in what remains. And somewhere beyond them, in the dark labyrinth of the old palace, the cloaked figure moves once more, not toward, but around, like a moth circling flame. Babylon watches. And so we return, at last, to the city's breath. The sun begins its slow descent once more, casting long golden arms across the rooftops of Babylon. Smoke from evening fires drifts lazily into the air. Clay ovens glow red as families prepare the last meal of the day. The scent of spiced lentils, grilled lamb, and crushed dates fills the winding streets. The sacred hour is near, when the day surrenders and night awakens the ancient gods. And Ashur-nasir stands at the edge of something neither night nor day can hold. He walks slowly, no longer hurrying to keep pace with Belatiru or asking questions with every step. His eyes, once wide with wonder, now move with the calm of someone who has seen what lies beneath painted walls and behind golden thrones. The scribe is no longer just a witness. He is a part of the story now. In his hand, he carries a single wax tablet, blank but waiting. Its surface reflects the dying sunlight, like a pool untouched by wind. It is a new beginning. Or an ending. Or both. Ahead stands the ziggurat of Marduk, towering like a stairway to forgotten stars. Priests in white robes climb its tiers, lighting fires and ringing bells to summon the gods for the night watch. The city hums with anticipation, but Ashur does not move toward it. He walks instead toward the river, toward the place where everything began. At the Euphrates, the air is cooler, the sky open and wide. Boats drift like shadows across the water. Children run along the banks with oil lamps, laughing as they chase each other. The reflection of the city flickers in the current, like Babylon is a dream floating above water. And there, by the river's edge, waiting in silence, stands Ninsun. She says nothing at first. She only watches him approach, as though she'd always known this moment would come. You came, she says softly. I said I would, Ashur replies. And what have you brought? He lifts the wax tablet. Not answers, he says. But memory. She nods, stepping closer. Good. Babylon doesn't need answers. Only those who remember what others forget. Ashur sits beside her on a flat stone. The same stone where children once fished, where soldiers once washed blood from their hands, where prophets once gazed at the sky and named the stars. The same river. The same breath. Always. He begins to etch lines into the tablet. Slowly, carefully. The stylus moves like a whisper. The first word, Babilu. The gate of the gods. Behind them, the city continues. Streets twist like veins. Lives begin and end. Priests chant. Thieves run. Lovers kiss beneath fig trees. Merchants haggle over copper and salt. But something else is happening, too. A shift. In the shadowed alleys near the broken statues, the watchers no longer stand cloaked and still. Their work is finished. Their eyes now turn to new places, new cities, new names. The memory of Babylon has been passed forward, quietly, gently. Ishtar pauses his writing. Will they come again? He asks. Ninsun looks toward the darkening horizon. Not if we remember. That is the trade. Memory for silence. And she tells him of what she saw in her dreams, that Babylon was never truly a place, but a pattern. A song in the bones of every city that came after. In every temple raised, in every language spoken, in every man who dared carve law from chaos. Babylon, she says, was the first heartbeat. The first question. The first defiance. Night falls fully. Lamps flicker to life across the riverbanks. Somewhere, a temple bell tolls 12 slow times. The final call of the gods. And then silence. Ishtar looks at the tablet. It is nearly full now. His hand aches, but his spirit feels weightless. Ninsun stands. I must go, she says. Will I see you again? Her smile is sad. Babylon is full of mirrors. Look long enough, and you'll find me. She fades into the darkness like a shadow returning to its home. Ishtar remains by the river, listening. To the frogs in the reeds. To the slow lap of water. To the memory of footsteps. To the silence of watchers who have turned away. And when he finishes the final word, he closes his eyes. Tomorrow, he will leave the city not in body, perhaps, but in purpose. He will walk into other cities, other stories. He will carry Babylon with him like a torch hidden in his chest. He will be the memory. And long after his bones are gone, someone else will read what he wrote. Someone will speak the name Babylon, and for a breathless second, the city will live again. The lions of the gate will roar. The Euphrates will shine. And the watchers will listen from the dark. Because Babylon does not die. She waits.